Welcome to the How to Be Moderately Successful podcast. I'm your host, Mike Scott, and I'm also the co-founder and CEO of Nona Digital, an expert firm that consults on, designs, and develops software for fintech companies around the world. A quick note to say that we're going to be rebranding the show soon to the FinTech Founder Journey. So just a heads up on that when you see your feed changing. Before I even begin, I need to stipulate that nothing in this podcast constitutes financial advice, and any investment decisions that you make are on your own, and you should do your own research. Today, I'm joined by Nona, or as his 263,000 Twitter followers and 326,000 YouTube subscribers know him, CryptoManRan. And we'll be discussing his journey from building and selling the largest sales and marketing agency in South Africa to becoming a global crypto influencer. In this podcast, we explore fintech and the founders that power it. We look at how to build better fintech products, better fintech businesses, and how to work on yourself to be more successful. We sponsor our own podcast. So as Nona Digital, we are sponsoring today's show. We're an expert firm that consults on, designs, and develops fintech software, and we do it with a level of care and excellence that is rare and difficult to match. Working with us, you get access to a deeply skilled and experienced fintech design and development team with a particularly deep experience level in blockchain. You get the benefit of a team that is big enough for no key person dependencies to exist, but small enough so that you're always close to the principles. And you get the benefit of our reusable component library, which means we're able to launch your fintech products sooner than anyone else could at a comparable standard. To get in touch with one of our principals to see how we could help your fintech project to accelerate and succeed, head over to nona.digital to book a consultation directly. And now onto the show. Nona is a seriously impressive operator. He co-founded and built the Creative Council Group, which was the largest sales and marketing agency in South Africa. The group was acquired by the Publicis Group in 2015, a deal that was, at the time, the largest acquisition transaction in Africa. In 2017, he launched the Crypto Trader Show, which was the world's first televised cryptocurrency show featured on CNBC, and now runs the YouTube channel Crypto Banter, which is absolutely blowing up. He's been considered one of the top 10 most influential people in blockchain for good reason. In my mind, Ran is one of the people that is doing real work to legitimize the space, which is so necessary. Ran holds a degree in finance as well as a CFA qualification. He's razor sharp and brings an energy that is seemingly limitless. With all of that said, welcome, Ran. It's great to have you on the show.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good. Oh man, it was easy. I had to get that intro down. I was just like, where do I stop? So that's where I stopped.
So out looking for a date. I mean, with an intro like that, I'm sure to land
a bit. Yeah, I can work on my game. So listen, Ran, I want to start actually not around crypto so much. I actually want to start with just how you went from running and exiting the biggest set of agencies in South Africa to becoming a crypto influencer. That's quite a massive change. And I'm kind of interested in two things. One, talk me through how that transition happened. And if you can remember, tell me the moment when you went, wow, this crypto thing, that's where it's at. And that's where I'm putting my energy in for the next decade.
Okay. So, I mean, everything in life happens for a reason. It's all about synchronicity. And I don't think that anything is just coincidental. So we built the biggest agency group in Africa, the biggest advertising and sales agency in Africa. And I don't know how familiar you are with that kind of business model, but it's a very linear business model. And what I mean by linear business model is the harder you work, the more people you employ, the more clients you get, the more money you make. But if you don't work hard for a few days or a few months, then all of a sudden there's less work and there's less income, and then there's less everything and less growth. And that's what you call a linear business model. And I was very frustrated because when you're young, 25 years old, and you've got all the energy in the world and you can work 20-hour days, it's cool to run a linear business model. And it's like being on a treadmill, and the faster you make the treadmill run, the more money you make. Problem is that as you get older, you're like, I want to spend some time with my wife and my kids and so on. And that kind of business model, that linear business model for me became very frustrating. So in my head, at this point in time, all I was thinking about was, how do I break out of a linear business model? And so I started exploring business models, and I stumbled on what they call the exponential growth business model or the platform growth business model, and did a real deep dive into exponential thinking. Went to Singularity University, did their master's program, educated myself, and went to Harvard, did some programs at Harvard. And then throughout all of this, coincidentally, I also started buying Bitcoin. And what I realized.
So when was this? Give me a year framing. Where are we now?
2014, 15 is when I start going into this rabbit hole.
Okay.
So I'm buying Bitcoin, and I'm also learning about exponential thinking, and I'm learning about platforms. And the beauty around platforms is, you don't have to work harder. Once there's a network effect, once users start joining your network starts growing exponentially. And once you've got this network effect, it's unstoppable. So I learned about this amazing thing called a network effect. And for those listeners who don't exactly know what a network effect, I'll dumb it down for you quite simply. A network effect is a business model where every new user to the network actually adds value to the network. So I'll give you the best example of a network effect. WhatsApp. WhatsApp is not the best chat app in the world, right? WeChat is probably a much better chat app. But in most countries where WhatsApp is being used, WeChat can't penetrate. There's a very good reason for that. It's actually a law. It's called the law of network effects. If you imagine that it's just me and Mike on a network, the number of calls that can be made in that network is I can call Mike and Mike can call me. That's 2 calls. And that's the maximum number of calls that can happen on the network. But if we introduce a third person to the network, so we introduce Bob to the network, all of a sudden, Mike can call Bob, Bob can call Mike. I can call Bob, Bob can call me. I can call Mike, Mike can call me. So you've now got 6 calls that can be made in the network. So what we see is that the new user has added value to the network, but actually not linearly, because 1 + 1 + 1 isn't equal 3. 1 + 1 + 1 actually equals 6.
It's exponential. Yeah.
And so the law of network effect says that networks that have the network effect, for every additional user that gets added to the network, then the value of the network grows exponentially. And if you look at all the most valuable companies in the world today, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Uber, let's, for argument's sake, just go into Instagram. What you can see is that all of those companies actually only have one thing in common. Yes, of course, they're all tech companies, but they actually only have one thing in common. They're actually not companies, they're networks. What do I mean by that? Well, Google is actually a search network. Why? Because the more people that search, the smarter the AI algorithm becomes, the better the search results. Therefore, the more people that search, therefore, the smarter the algorithm, and so on.
And the harder to compete with, and therefore they just get stronger, right?
Let's talk about someone who comes to South Africa or to any country in the world and says, I want to join a chat network. And he's faced with WhatsApp or WeChat in South Africa, because WeChat's not very prevalent in South Africa. Well, if he joins WeChat, there's not many people he can speak to. If he joins WhatsApp, not only can he speak to everyone else that's on WhatsApp, but he also becomes another node where people can speak to him on WhatsApp, so he adds value to the network. And those are businesses that have network effect. So I knew in my head that I needed to get into a business that has network effect. And then I discovered Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is actually a store of value network. You realize that as more people start to use Bitcoin, therefore you can send Bitcoin to more people, therefore more people are buying Bitcoin, therefore you can send more people, and it's become a network. In fact, I think it's the fastest growing network in the world. It's the fastest network to ever have reached 100 million users in a certain number of times. So it is one of the fastest growing networks in the world, and it's actually a money network. And from the time that I clicked that crypto is actually all about network effects, I knew I had to be all in on crypto. I knew it. And that was around 2015. At that point, I was like, look, it's almost like, I don't know if it's a great analogy to use, but I'm going to use it anyway. It's almost like you're married to this very linear, boring, and then you meet this person. And when you realize once you meet this other person that you got to get out of what you're doing and you got to go into this new world because this is actually so much better and more exciting. I'm not sure if the analogy is the best analogy, but every day that I spent in a linear business after that point made no sense to me and was actually super frustrating.
Yeah.
Every day I went to work, I was frustrated. I was like, I don't know, I can't.
I love how you've described that, Rand, because you've used, people speak about scalable businesses and not scalable businesses. And I haven't read everything, but I've read a lot on it. I speak on it. I've been spoken to on it. I've never heard anyone explain, because what you're really talking about is truly scalable enterprises there. But you've described it in a very unique way, which is great, which is taking the network element of it. And that's actually a good segue to the question I was going to ask you later, but I'm going to ask you now instead, because so, what I understand you just said, and I get it completely, is you built a business that was a services business. It was a massive business. It was a very successful business, but it was linear. It was not scalable. You had to add more people. You had to add more effort, and that gave you a bigger outcome. Then you discover this network effect, and you go all in on crypto, which we'll speak about throughout this episode. What you've done incredibly well is you've built your own network. You've built your own community. I was just tallying up the numbers because we were supposed to speak a while ago, and I had to go re-look at your numbers, and you've grown by thousands and thousands of followers and subscribers. And now, if I'm correct, you've got almost 750,000 followers. Sure, there'll be duplication between YouTube and Twitter, but those are the numbers when you add them together. So you've built this very impressive community yourself. Now, I understand that a community and a network are not necessarily the same thing, but they certainly share certain traits. What are some fundamentals that you've used to build this incredible following online, and especially one that stood the test of time? I mean, it's a few years, but in crypto, as we know, a few years is like a few decades. And you've just been consistent, man. I mean, I don't even know if you remember, but we spoke in 2017, and I've just been watching you be consistent. And
you guys did work for us.
What are some of we did some work for you in one of your ventures in New York. Yes. Yeah. And what are some of your fundamentals that you've used to build your own community and to keep it so consistent and just keep it growing by thousands and thousands and thousands, sort of week in and week out?
It's a great question, and it's not one that was done by design. So the answer is it wasn't done by design, but I read the comments on my YouTube every single day because I want to understand what people are saying. And there's thousands of comments, but I read them every single night. And that's because I really want to understand what the community thinks of what we're doing. And, especially the bad comments are the ones that I listen to the most, because somebody somewhere out there is saying something negative about you. But there was one comment that stuck out yesterday, which really summarizes the whole thing as to why we've managed to build in 6 months one of the biggest crypto communities in the world. And not only that, certainly the most loyal crypto community in the world. We had a YouTube consultant. We get consultants to tell us how we're doing. And he said the one thing that he's never, ever seen before in his entire 15 years or 12 years or however long he's been consulting on YouTube, he's never seen a community that's that loyal. So they measure it with metrics. They say, what percentage of your subscribers watch your shows? So we know that 84% of people that watch our shows are subscribers, which is like in YouTube, like 20% is the average. And we're like at 84%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He said, look, basically, if I were to summarize this for you, your objective is to get more people into your family, because once they're in your family, they're addicted. And so yesterday, I read a very, very, very smart comment, which I don't think the person intended it to be so smart, but it really summarized it. And it was a lady, and she said, you've managed to create a reality show out of crypto. And then I thought about it. What have we actually done? And the reality is we are just ourselves. We are authentic. We're not showmen. This is not scripted. We tell people what we do for good or for bad, and we're human. And what people have realized is that they're part of our family because we're so authentic in our ways. Now, authenticity is a good thing and a bad thing, because authenticity also means that your blind spots and your weak spots are exposed. When I make a bad trade, when I make a bad call, when I call the market,
everybody tells you about it, right?
Everybody tells me about it. But I think the formula for us is we are who we are. We're not going to change that to please the audience, number one. Number two, we do this with the utmost integrity and credibility. And I can't stress to you how important that is in crypto. And I'm going to be authentic with you. In 2017, when I started the world's first streaming crypto program in the world on TV, on CNBC, one of the mistakes that I made was that I advised many projects. And I did. I spent a lot of time advising many projects. But in return for advising many projects, I used to receive payment. I used to receive payment in crypto. And sometimes those projects used to be featured on my show. Now, you could say, look, that's a conflict of interest because he's not being neutral because he's being paid. And obviously at the time, I didn't think that I was I didn't think I was being extra kind to them, but I can see in hindsight how that would make me lose credibility. So in our new venture, for example, we never accept payment from any token for anything, not advertising. We never accept free tokens. We never accept any tokens that are discounted from the price on the market. We never do that. We always credibly pay like everyone else. And so if people say, why are you talking about a token? Well, that's because we invested when we told you to invest. And we're talking about it because we told you to invest and we put our money behind it. And so,
yeah, and that certainly builds credibility. It does because you're right. I mean, in crypto, it's so rife where there's influencers, and I know because I get invited into these private pre-sales all the time, and the first thing they say is, "What can you do? How can you influence it?" And my response has started being, "Well, I'm going to invest in your product. That's how I can influence this. Like you're taking my money. That's how I'm helping you." And it's become kind of ridiculous, right? And I've actually stopped participating in these things generally because of that. And you must get that in spades. I mean, because of your profile. So I can only imagine how, firstly, how tempting it was, and now, secondly, once you're very mature in the space now, how important it is that you don't do that. It's critical. Ran, I just want to sort of take it back a step. So you've built this amazing community. You've got 750,000 followers. By my maths, within a few months, you're going to hit 1 million combined if you're growing anything like you were in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I was watching. What is the vision of Crypto Banter? What are you trying to achieve here? So I know you didn't set out to create a reality show for crypto. That's kind of how it's manifested. But what's the vision? What are you doing here? You're a credible guy. You're an accountant-based dude, but you're in crypto. Why? What's the end game here?
Well, it's very simple. If you think about traditional finance, at any moment in the day, you can switch on a channel, and within 30 minutes to an hour, you know exactly what's happening in the finance world. So to pick your poison, whether you want Bloomberg or CNBC or any one of the other competitors, you know that at any point in the day, you can switch on the TV, and within 30 minutes to an hour, you know exactly what's going on in the market from a credible source, in a well-presented, curated, professional way. If you want the same for crypto, it doesn't exist. And if you do want it, then your best options are you can go to Twitter and you can filter through lots of noise to get what you want. And even then, you're not sure if it's credible. You can go to Telegram, but I don't know what your Telegram looks like. I can tell you what my Telegram looks like. I've got 50,000 groups and probably 25 million unread messages. And so what we wanted to do was to bring the banter from Twitter and Telegram to a curated, credible, audio-visual medium that you could switch on at any time in the day, and within 1 hour, you could get credible, live crypto content. And so what you see today is we've got 2 shows that are live every single day. Next week, the 3rd show starts. Then we've got 3 shows that are live every single day. And hopefully by the end of August, we'll have about 5 or 6 hours of live crypto programming. December, we're aiming for 12. And next year, December, we're aiming for 24/7. So what we're building is 24/7, 365, credible, curated, live crypto streaming content, accompanied by an amazing website, which is the hub, an activation website where everyone can log in to read the news, get information about what we're talking about, talk about the shows, chat platforms, etc. And the third part of our vision, which is actually launching on the 1st of August, is what we call Crypto School. Now, the reason why we launched Crypto School is because we know that crypto is very intimidating, and we want to get as many people into the crypto ecosystem in the most least intimidating way. And so we started a very, very, very simple crypto school. And that crypto school is effectively it has 3 streams. The first stream is for people who've never bought a crypto or a Bitcoin before. And there we start off from what is money, what is gold, what is Bitcoin, what is Ethereum, what is an exchange, what is a wallet, how to buy an exchange, where does your money flow. The next stream is making money in crypto. Fundamental analysis, technical analysis, staking, analyzing tokenomics. The third stream is crypto for institutions and organizations, and that is how do we accept crypto? Where do we store it? How do we offer loyalty rewards to our clients in crypto? So on the 1st of August, we're launching the first part, which is Crypto School. 15th of August, we're launching the Make Money in Crypto, and then we'll progress from there into the institutions in crypto at some point in time. Our objective is within 12 months to educate 1 million people, to put 1 million people through school, and school is free. So no one ever pays for school.
So how's all of this being funded? Do you self-fund this? Have you raised investment? Do you fund it by your activities that crypto is making? Is it a passion project that you're throwing your 10, 20 years of your life into? How are you paying for this? Because you're doing this at scale. You are doing it in an exponential fashion, so your overheads are nowhere near what they would have been in an agency, but you've still got significant overheads, I'm imagining. How's this all funded?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a big secret that I had quite a big exit from my previous company. And I also don't think it's a big secret that a lot of that money was invested in Bitcoin. So,
yeah, I actually remember a tweet, and I'm going to ask you a question on this later. I'm going to put you on the spot, and if it's too personal, we can scrap it from the interview. But actually, but I remember a tweet when I was still living in South Africa, and I think you were too, where you actually tweeted, and it was public, relatively public, that your exit was a massive exit, and you actually tweeted something along the lines of, I did very well in my career. I worked very hard.
I made more money in crypto in the last 3 months than I made in the last 20 years in my business and my exit. At the time,
yeah, and it's many tens of millions of dollars, right? And I remember just going, Jesus, Ran, that's dangerous, man. That's a dangerous thing to put on Twitter.
Yeah, it was a dangerous thing to put on Twitter, but I'm very happy and openly admit the fact that in 2017 I made a fuck ton of cash, but I also lost it because I drank the crypto Kool-Aid. And I thought that these shitcoins could never ever crash and that we're just in the beginning. And I rode the wave all the way down and pretty much got to where I started. But I took a whole lot of lessons. And actually, one of the big things about Crypto Banter is teaching people all the lessons that I learned. And let me tell you, this time around, I didn't make those mistakes. This time around, it was I learned the first time. I applied the principles that I'd learned very well. And this time around, we are killing it, and the community is following it because my friends phone me and they say to me, "Hey, what crypto should I buy? Should I be buying?" The answer is, even if you're my best friend, just watch the show, because what I do on the
show—that's what we're doing.
Is what I do. Like I'm not hiding anything. I have to make 2 hours of content every single day. Now you know how hard it is to make content. To make 2 hours of content every single day, you need to just tell people what you're doing. And that's what I do. I just tell people what I'm doing. So, and the community, I mean, those that listened and those that got in when we told them to get in are still hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of % up, even after this massive correction. So that's you asking about 2017, greatest learning experience of my life. I must say, depressing though, because I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but if you go from 0 to making 100 and now you've got 100, and in your head, you've spent 100. You're thinking mansions, you're thinking yachts, you're thinking, and then all of a sudden, your 100.
It's loss aversion. We know that loss aversion is more powerful than the desire for more. We know that. So, look, Ran, I really appreciate the transparency on that, and it actually just made me think of something, which is not a prepared question, but Anthony DiIorio, co-founder of Ethereum, recently in the news. Saying that he's getting out of crypto. He's sort of for security reasons. I know Anthony's a lovely guy. And it's, I don't know how true the articles are. I haven't spoken to him about this, but the articles are pretty straight up saying he's, there's security concerns and all the rest of this sort of, which I think is nonsense. But you're massively in the spotlight with this stuff, and I've met a bunch of crypto influencers. Most of them have sort of given me these crazy stories about traveling with security details and all this sort of shit. How do you experience that? You've got a lot of followers. Every single person's going to assume that you've got a shit ton of money, and if they, chop off a finger, they get a Bitcoin. How do you navigate that? If you're comfortable talking about this.
Well, for one, I don't manage or touch any of my own crypto. So I know this. I know that I'm a hack target. I know that I'm I just know that if you're in the limelight, you're going to get attacked. And so, a long time ago, I made a decision after 2017, I made a decision not to manage any of my own crypto. So I have people, custodians, professionals that manage my crypto. Sometimes I manage it with my guidance. So please do this, please do that. But ultimately, you very rarely, if you asked me to send you half a Bitcoin now, I couldn't. I just don't have it.
You can't, You've got those layers of security for this reason.
I don't have it. Even on I have probably 2 or 3 wallet apps on my phone, only because I went to El Salvador recently and I had to have some Bitcoin just to see how the system worked. So maybe I've got like 0.1 or 0.2 Bitcoin on my phone. But other than that, like I don't know where my keys are. They're with professional custodians or with a team which is located somewhere in the world, and they have my assets, professionals, and that's pretty much where it is. So you'll never see me, you'll never catch me unless it's on the show or whatever. You'll never catch me making big trades. And I've got a small account on one of the exchanges, and if they did hack that, great. If that's what you managed to get, great.
Yeah, it's real, and I appreciate you sharing that. I was expecting saying let's not talk about that, so we'll move on from that. But I appreciate it. So look, Ron, you've kind of seen this world evolve massively, and very simply put, what are, like, if you think back to sort of 2016, 2017, even 2015, or when you were getting involved to now, what are some of the main things that you've seen mature and change? I mean, we can speak about 1 trillion projects, we can speak about all sorts of shit, but when I ask you that question, what are, let's say, the 1 or 2 things that pop into your head to go, well, Mike, these things are just completely different now to what they were 4, 5, 6 years ago? What are those things?
Such a beautiful question. And I think you just touched such a chord in me. When you've made a little bit of cash the first time around, sold the business the first time around, the next time around, you actually on the journey for the beauty of the journey and not because you actually need to be on the journey. So, like, to be honest, I'm working much more for fun now. The type of stress that I have is not whether I'm going to make it or not make it or put food on the table or not. Like, I've made it. I don't want to make it anymore. Like, I'm not really looking to be the richest man in the world and to hold those trophies. I built a business. I sold the business. It was fantastic. It was like really good. And now I'm much more about having fun every single day when I go to work. And like my wife said to me the other day, you work so hard. And I said, I just actually don't even remember the last time I worked. All I do all day is speak to people who are doing cool shit and find out what they're doing. So this time I've really enjoyed the journey. And the journey has been an amazing journey. The first thing is I've really learned how markets work. And I've learned a lot about human emotion. Everyone says when everyone believes it and there's a hype, you should be selling and you shouldn't believe it. In 2017, I didn't do that. I got caught up in it. In 2021, when I saw the hype, I was like, watch this. And I knew that any day now, this thing's correcting. I actually did a show that said there's 69 days to go in this bull market. And, 75 days later, the market crashed or something like that. Because I just saw all the signs. So the first thing is I've watched a maturation of the people in the market, where the first time they got hyped up by hot air garbage, and the second time they became a little bit more discerning. But towards the second time, as the hype started up, people who were building garbage managed to raise money. And then I realized, hold on a second, if they're raising money for this kind of stupid project, the end is near. The second thing which I've loved, and this is like the part that I'm watching and I'm involved in, and I've got my finger on the pulse real time on an industry that is disrupting pretty much every industry in the world. So, the feeling of holding Bitcoin from 2015 through the 2017 correction, not selling it when it was back down at 3,000, and then in 1 year watching Bitcoin disrupt gold and being vindicated and saying, wow, I did my part, and now Bitcoin is disrupting one of the biggest industries in the world, which is gold, and much more than that, is like, holy shit, I beat Michael Saylor to it. We did. I know you were involved too. Then I watch NFTs, and I just see how non-fungible tokens are changing the world. And everybody thinks that a non-fungible token is you're buying this cute little collectible kitty. But I'm now watching a cute little collectible item being played in a video game and pull a third world country out of poverty, where people who have a phone connection and can play a video game are earning 10 times the minimum wage because of this thing called crypto. And I'm watching other disruption, like people buying cool cats online. Cool cats are little tokens, collectibles, digital collectibles, and paying millions and millions of dollars and not understanding why they do it. And then a week later, I realized that what they're actually building is this club of cool cat cultured people around the world, which is a new level of social acceptance, which replaces physical social stuff. Like, if you've got a cat avatar on Twitter, and there's another guy who's got a cat avatar on Twitter, immediately you're connected.
It's signaling, right? Yeah, it's signaling. It's a new type of signaling, and it totally is. I love Kevin Rose's podcast. He gets quite deep. Probably listened to Modern Finance. He's great, and they speak quite a lot about that around these. He goes deep into NFTs, and it is, if you got a CryptoPunk and it's your favicon or your avatar or wherever you're putting it, there's an immediate social signaling. It's not about Rolexes anymore for this world. It's not about I wear a Rolex because you wear a Rolex and we both wear Rolexes. Now it's about I've got a CryptoPunk, you got a CryptoPunk. Oh, there's just a whole lot of social signaling. Very, very interesting point there. Ran, I want to change. I'm going to have to do this to you a lot because I know we can just go so deep down any one of these things. So I want to change gears a little bit. There has been and is always a lot of talk about Bitcoin ETFs. And we don't need to get into what ETFs are. I'm pretty sure most of the listeners will know what they are. That when this happens, something will unlock or open up. You and I spoke about this in the pre-interview. What is a Bitcoin ETF? Not necessarily an ETF. What is a Bitcoin ETF? And more importantly, why do you think it matters so much? What changes when we see a proper Bitcoin ETF at, let's call it, a mass adoption level?
Right now, if you want to buy Bitcoin, you have various options, but the most direct option is to actually go and buy Bitcoin on an exchange, right? So what does that mean? It means you have to open an exchange account. You have to store your passwords and maybe your private keys if you've got a wallet. You have to fund the exchange account. You have to get your Bitcoin, get them off the exchange, put them in a private wallet, store them. If you lose your keys are gone. Just think about that for the average, not you and I, because we were early in the space, but just think about my mom, your mom. Mom, you have to store this thing called the private key. Where should I put it? On my phone? No, Mom, you can't put it on your phone because your phone may be hacked. And what if I lose it? Because we naturally lose keys. Who do I phone? No, you can't phone anyone. Oh, this is a bad idea. So for most people, there's 100 million people that have opted for this option, but the other 6.9 billion or whatever the number is just simply aren't going to do that. So how can they invest in Bitcoin in something that they're very familiar with? Well, they can buy shares, right? And what an ETF is an exchange electronically traded fund which only holds Bitcoin. In other words, it is a bucket that only holds Bitcoin, which you can buy a share of, which means that if you have 1/100th of the shares of the bucket, you own 100th of what's in the bucket. And if the bucket has 100 Bitcoin in it, you own one of the 100 Bitcoins. So effectively, what an ETF is it allows you to buy into Bitcoin in a very simple way, using your Robinhood or your Interactive Brokers or your stockbroking account. Will it really change a lot? Well, on the one hand, you could say yes, because now all these pension funds, can just buy the Bitcoin ETF with one button at very, very, very low fees. They can just buy and hold Bitcoin. The ETF would probably be insured, which means that if it ever lost the keys or hacked or whatever else, it would make whole all the holders. Do I think that an ETF is going to really, really, really change the world when it comes to Bitcoin? No. And I'll tell you why I don't think so. There is already a product called Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is a trust. The shares of the trust trade on the stock exchange, and that trust only buys Bitcoin. Today, the market cap of that trust is in the 20 odd billions. And when Bitcoin was at its highs, it was at around 40 billion. Okay, so $40 billion was invested in the Grayscale Trust. The Grayscale Trust is effectively an ETF, but it's just not called and regulated like an ETF. It has slightly higher fees. It trades at a premium or a discount. It's not as liquid. But it's still a $40 billion fund, so to speak. So if I look at the biggest gold ETF, which is called GLD, the assets in the biggest gold ETF were about 60 billion, I think, if I looked at it the other day. Okay, now I'm kind of looking at this. It was higher than 60 billion, but not as high as I expected. I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, if these smart pension funds and investors actually really wanted to buy Bitcoin, they can buy the Grayscale BTC Trust. It's not that different from an ETF. So I think an ETF is a good indication of the maturation of the industry, and it will make a difference. But I don't think that the day that the ETF is approved, all of a sudden Bitcoin triples in value because everyone starts to buy in. If you believe that something is a good investment, you will find a way to get into it. And there are ways to get into it. It's not like you, up until now, you've never been able to buy a Bitcoin. You have. It's just not an ETF. Okay, so it's a GBTC trust, or you have to go and buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, or it's not like you haven't had options. And we can see that every day, more and more pension funds and other funds are buying Bitcoin. So I'm saying an ETF is great. It's just another sign of endorsement. It's just another excuse for people not to buy into Bitcoin, to say, oh, the SEC hasn't regulated it. Well, when there's an ETF, then the SEC has actually given the thumbs up. And so it's just another excuse and another hurdle. But I don't think that that's the thing that's going to make Bitcoin double or triple or quadruple, the day that an ETF is announced.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because I had the ex-CEO of Binance Australia has started a business called Monochrome, and what they're doing is basically providing investment vehicles for institutions to invest in Bitcoin. And I didn't realize this, but they've already, in the Australian regulation and Australian legal system, they've already got, basically, as I understand it, unit trusts that you can basically invest in. The underlying asset is Bitcoin. It's legitimate. It's regulated. These things all exist, exactly to your point. I do think, I agree with you that it won't sort of change everything, but I do think it's just one more big step to legitimizing the asset class, which is great. But I don't think I agree, I don't think it's a 2 or 3 times multiplier. So, Ran, I want to move on to something totally unrelated. I saw on one of your feeds that you might have done the show already, or it's happening today, but you've got Sam Bankman-Fried coming on from FTX. Today. Awesome.
Today, I'm not
awesome.
sure when
this
the
question's
podcast
great.
is going to be broadcast, but it's certainly today. It's Friday. I'm not sure what the date is, but it's Friday today. It is Friday.
Yeah, this will only come out next week, so it'll definitely be out by the time the podcast publishes. But I've been following Sam's journey, and it's just so cool. I mean, for the listeners, this guy arbitrage traded his way to mammoth proportions, and now he's built an exchange that's just, in my opinion, and people that I speak to, that's just an exchange to end all exchanges. And their token is the FTX token, and I'm certainly not saying buy the FTX token, but that's the underlying token that sort of powers the exchange.
I'm saying it.
And it seems like you're saying it. Okay, cool. You can say it. That's cool. So it's become something that's just, I don't know. I like to like them. It's like, I want to like Sam, and I want to like FTX. And they've just raised $900 million off an $18 billion valuation. Ran, what is so special about FTX? And where do you see both the business going and the FTT token, which is the FTX token? Like, just talk to me about FTX, because I get excited about it. So this is selfish.
So, I mean, I don't want to knock the other exchanges, but I think the experience that you get trading on FTX is it's a real trading system built by real traders for real traders. And I mean, I know that sounds like a very cliched line, but trading is about adrenaline and dopamine, and it's actually about a mix of hormones. It's like when you go to the casino and the lights are dimmed and the numbers are flashing and the lights are flashing and there's bells and there's ding, ding, ding.
It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, man. Yeah.
So that is an experience which has been designed over many, many, many years to get you to want to play more, to release the right hormones in your brain, the serotonin, the oxytocin, the dopamine, all those beautiful chemicals that make us want to trade more or enjoy the trading experience much more. Now, I don't know if you've ever been on FTX, but it's such a fucking cool experience. Like,
it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's more than just crypto, right? I mean, that's what blew my mind. My brother just loves it. He's like, a while ago, he's like, Mike, have you seen FTX? You can trade Bitcoin and you can trade lumber futures. Like, you can just do everything. And then on top of it, he is like, and the user experience is it's just better by orders of magnitude than anything else that exists. How do you think Sam's got this right, though? Like what has he done?
Sam's a trader.
He's a trader. So built by traders for traders, as you said.
Yeah, he's a trader. He understands tech very, very, very well. I mean, look, my relationship with Sam I first spoke to him just when FTX was launched. And I remember that we featured them on our CNBC show and they sponsored a segment, but FTX was nothing. And I remember the early days of FTX. So like, they were just this new exchange, and Sam was this awkward guy. I don't know if you've ever come across Sam, but he's him and Vitalik, like they're just different. I don't know if you've seen the Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, Vitalik videos lately. We had one on our show yesterday. Part 2 came out today, but they're just awkwardly charming. So, Vitalik is super awkward, but super charming. And Sam is
And
exactly
super smart. I mean, ludicrously smart, both of them, right?
so. Every generation, spits out some of these super smart geniuses, and I think that both Vitalik and Sam have both qualities. So on the one hand, they are these absolutely they're geniuses, slightly on the scale, or slightly on the Asperger scale, and kind of awkward. But at the same time, they speak English and they're very charming. So there are many people that are very, very smart, but they just don't speak English. They speak computer, or they speak. Now, Vitalik has this incredible. He looks, I don't know if you comment on how he looks. I don't want to make.
Everyone's seen Vitalik. Oh, yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And he is exceptionally bright. And if you listen to him talk to tech people, then I mean, it's like listening to, or certainly when I listen to Chinese or to Mandarin, that's exactly what I hear. But then he talks to me and he explains it.
And he can dumb it down and he can make it real. Yeah.
Not only that, but by the time he's finished talking to me, I'm in love with the guy. And if you watch the videos now with Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher and Vitalik, you see that he has this unbelievable charisma and charm in an absolutely humble way. And if you think about Sam has all of those qualities. He's super genius. He's super smart. He has a vision and balls like I've never, ever seen before. I mean, just get this, okay? Just get this. FTX is banned in the United States, okay? FTX is banned. You are not allowed to use FTX in the United States. But he sponsored the Miami Arena. Okay, I mean, is that not the biggest fuck you in the world?
I love it. I love that. It's just so great. And you look at the guy and you think, no, this guy, he didn't do that. Like, if you're listening to this and you don't know what Sam looks like, Google him and you'll see what Ran and I are talking about. This is not a guy that looks aggressive and ballsy, right? But I love it. And, I want to add something to the Vitalik thing and the Sam thing is, because I just realized it now, and there's some saying, I think it was about Disraeli or something, one of the prime ministers, but there's a very rare quality that people have is that the smartest people that are also good leaders and great orators and very charismatic people, they don't actually leave you thinking, like if we take Vitalik, for example, when you hear him speaking, I mean, you get to actually speak to him. I've never actually spoken to him, but when I listen to him, I catch myself going, shit, he's making me feel really clever, which is him doing that work. He's actually making me feel smarter. Right.
That's a good
and at least I'm self-aware to realize that it's him doing all the work. It's not actually me being smart. And that's the gift that these guys have got, is that they're ultra smart, but they know how to communicate to us Luddites in comparison in a way that actually brings us up to a higher level, which is pretty damn rare and phenomenal, which is why these guys are doing what they're doing.
Yeah. So
I love it. I didn't know that about Sam, and that's just so cool, man. I love that kind of thing. So you reckon FTX is going to win? On the exchange side.
I'm going to be bold here, and I'm going to say that FTX is actually the new NASDAQ, and that I think that one day everything will just be traded on FTX, because I think in the end FTX wins, and I think that by the mere fact that he has an unbelievable trading experience, and $900 million on a valuation of 18 billion, and we're talking about a business that is. I hazard a guess that's 3 years old. It might be 4, but it's if it's not 4, it's definitely 3. What are these people buying? Why are they paying $18 billion for it?
So that was my next question. Like, I wanted to ask you that exact question, which is why I raised the valuation. What, in your opinion, because I don't understand this, what are they buying at 18 billion? What do they see, or do they just see what you see? This is going to be the NASDAQ platform.
I think that one day everything is just traded on FTX. I think that CZ Binance realized that, and he bought into FTX, if I'm not mistaken, on a valuation of 400 million. And we thought that was really high when he paid it. And I think that was like, look, don't quote me on times, but call it 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, Binance buys into FTX, rumored valuation 400 million. At the time, we thought, geez, wow, he's overpaying. CZ Binance, huge visionary. I mean, he just thought, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me buy into these guys.
You got to commend him for that, right? The founder of the other biggest exchange, and he sees that and he just goes, well, I'll back that guy because he's doing better things.
CZ, in my mind, is someone who's could be remembered in history as the person who really mastered the decentralized business model. And I'll tell you why I say this. How many businesses do you know that have grown to Binance's size Binance, again, don't quote me on times, but I think Binance is about 5 years old. Like Binance is no older than 6 or 7 years old. Okay. Mm-hmm. 2 years into Binance's existence, they were making $1 billion a year plus. How many other businesses do you know that did that? Okay, that's great. That's super impressive. And there's probably very few businesses that did that. But then you got to learn who CZ is and meet the guy. And the guy always has time for everybody. It's weird. Like if I was building a business that is running billions and billions and billions of dollars, and you think about billions of dollars without real infrastructure, had to scale really quickly around the whole world to battle regulations. He did this in 2 or 3 years. Okay? I know how hard it is to build a business. He did it in 2 or 3 years. He is a genius not only in spotting trends and everything else that many others can do, but what CZ has done that nobody else has been able to do is he has mastered the ability to run a global organization in a decentralized way. And I don't know, unless it's all a poker face, I've met with him hundreds of times, tens of times, whatever. I've been for dinners with him and we've had a couple of drinks together. And the guy, like if I were him, I wouldn't have time for that shit. I'd be like, I have to go back to my hotel room. Germany's crashing. My office in No, he's cool. You can have lunch with it. Like he just seems to have this whole setup. And that's the part that I admire the most is that to me is the fastest built business in a decentralized way. Private business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a good observation. It's a really good observation. I think he is something of an icon. And I tend to agree. I think he will go down in history. Ran, it's been super cool speaking to you, man. I'm only cutting it off because we like to keep these under an hour. I feel like we could just talk all night. Look, I don't even have to ask how to be followed. You can find Ran, CryptoManRan is his handle. You'll find him everywhere, all over the internet. He's a very easy guy to find and he's great to follow. Ran, it's been absolutely awesome speaking to you. Thank you so much for making the time. I hope it was valuable to you. I hope you enjoyed it. And we will definitely get you back onto the show. To the listeners, thank you so much for listening to the show. And if you would like to discuss your fintech project with a team of experts in design and development, you're welcome to book a call with me or one of the principals on our website, which is www.nona.digital. And I'll be back next week with another episode to explore the FinTech Founder Journey.